I think it makes sense because as this entire field develops further, we should not just know the tools, but we should know the inherent architecture as marketers and what business logic can be put on top of that inherent architecture to deliver whatever we want as a business outcome. So I will not take too much of your time. I will hand it over to Zorawar and let's proceed. Thanks, Zorawar.
Thank you, Pai. Thank you, Ashish, and everyone for being here. I hope, just double checking before we start, I'm audible. Uh, could everyone confirm
Yep.
that?
Yep, Zorawar.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, fantastic. And I'm going to just share my screen and I'll just wait for you all to confirm the same. Just give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen, Ashish, but it's asking me to restart. So please just be patient for 10 seconds.
No problem. It's funny sometimes to think about it that we are using AI to solve the global issues, and we are still struggling about restart the system and restart the browser issues. Oh, I think
Could
we
everyone
have you back.
confirm? Yeah. It's all right. So if everyone can confirm screen is visible, I'm audible, we can jump into this. Yeah, well, it's a field of interest for me, but hopefully by the end of it, you have a deeper understanding and a more invigorated interest in how to apply this to different capacities, roles, enterprises, and departments, personal or professional. Uh, so I'm going to start by taking you all through some very fundamental basics of machine learning because the world is all about AI. However, AI is sort of just a subset of machine learning, and it's a debate, right? That is machine learning a subset of artificial intelligence, or is artificial intelligence a subset of machine learning? I firmly believe that machine learning is the broader umbrella, and AI that the world is harping on uh, is is yes a pivotal piece of technology, yet it's only tip of the iceberg. And hopefully by the end of this presentation and webinar, you guys have a broader idea of what that iceberg looks like beneath the ocean and how it can actually change enterprises and our work lives. So on that note, I'm going to start the presentation. As the opening line says, you all have tried multiple tools. Nobody here does not know AI, but I'd like you to keep an open mind and a free heart, uh, and see what I'm able to take you through and how you're able to ingest that information. So let's start. GPT in itself explains everything we need to know about uh, the AI architecture that has created this magic. And why we are referring to the word GPT is because except for machine learning AI engineers and techies like myself, the majority of humanity has picked up on the AI momentum after Chat GPT got launched. So many of you may already know GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. We'll run in reverse order. Transformer was introduced in 2017 by Google. It was a scientific paper. We will go through a very cool animation, which will give you a very simplistic idea of what a transformer is. We've prepared that. But essentially, it's a complex set of mathematical equations which take a token at the top, do some magic, and by the time it comes out of the pipeline, you have the original token, which could be an alphabet, a word, an image, it could even be sound, and it predicts what is the most logical next thing. That's essentially what Transformers does. It's the underlying architecture, and it was invented by Google. And that's the paper. It's called Attention is All You Need. You may have heard this in many newspaper articles. Uh, Too complex to deep dive into. for those who are not into the math of it, but it's adequate for you to browse through. What is the meaning of pre-trained? The large language models are not by default capable of responding. So Ashish was just showing us Gemini and its capabilities. But what we need to understand is that if I was to train a large language model on a massive chunk of data, it is not necessarily chatty. Its chattiness comes from its pre-training and post-training, where it has been mandated to not just carry the information of the world, uh, but also kind of respond in a chatbot manner. Why it's important to understand this is because in different enterprises, different business departments, you could pre-train a large language model or a large multi-model to not be chatty, but be something else, be, say, a executive decision maker. Uh, you could also train it to just give you yes and no. You could also train it to be sort of a supervisor, keeping track of juniors below it and giving them guidance, approvals, rejections. It could also be an auditor. It could also be a lawyer. It could be an observer. So that is what the pre-trained part is. And what we've experienced, most of us, is uh, a large language model that is pre-trained to be chatty and trained on large amounts of text. Generative, as I've already explained, thanks to the transformer, it's all about predicting what is next. This will be an interactive session, so please do feel free to raise your hand, and Pai, do point out, because I'm focusing on one screen. So if someone raises their hand, I'm happy to stop and answer questions.
Sure.
Moving on. So is large language model everything? Well, no. Intelligent machines recognizing patterns, going through this process of deep learning, which can be reinforcement learning, it can be other forms of machine learning. All of these have led to the creation of large language models, which is actually a very small subset of the broader piece, right? And where I picked up from the internet, like I said, they have AI as the bigger boundary and machine learning contained under it. I'm of the belief that machine learning is the bigger boundary, and then AI is one thing within it. So before we jump into some cool stuff and the technicalities and amazing tools that we have to show you today, we must understand this one important point about truthfulness, that they are trained to generate human-like text, but it is not true in essence. So if I was to say, this cat lives in a dash, the answer could be this cat lives in a home, this cat lives in a house, this cat lives in a box. Whatever that final prediction is nothing but a mathematical sequence running. And actually, all large language models come up with more than one answer. The one you see as the result is the one that had the highest mathematical probability, or score, as we call it, right? It had the highest weight, and hence it gets added. But that does not equate to truthfulness yet. So whenever you're using any of these technologies, whether to generate a press release, write content or copy, generate images, you have to keep this fact in mind.
Zura, Antariksh had a question. Sorry to interrupt.
Please.
Antariksh, you had a question.
Zorawar, so hi guys, thank you for keeping the session. I just have one question, and this is bugging me for very long. The idea behind the GPT is a pre-trained model. Now this kind of points out to the direction that I will get most of the content which is already existing in the world, right? How is that GPTs are now producing things which are unique in nature, or is it just an amalgamation of old things and they are being made to form in a new things? As in, if I could say subtly, that GPT cannot make anything new or discover anything new without the old data set, or it cannot generate anything new. Is that a correct statement? I'm not sure if I'm clear in this.
Your first half is correct, that it is pre-trained on a bunch of data. So what a large language model essentially, it's a great question, by the way. What a large language model essentially is is the entire World Wide Web, www dot any website in the world that you type, right? Uh, the large language model is a compressed internet. You've actually broached a topic very close to my heart, the transformer architecture, and I won't bore you with the math. The transformer architecture actually came from a very old research paper that said information could be embedded in shapes. We've always known information to be embedded in handwriting, in on paper, in file, on cloud, right? But the beautiful underlying idea was that can I take a piece of information and embed it into a shape? And that shape does not have a language. Essentially, the formation of the shape is governed by the amount of language, amount of data you throw on. Why it is called a black box technology, answering your second half of the question, it can it can discover new things. It can be grounded to today's information. But even the top research scientists in the world, including the ones at OpenAI, do not truly understand. They know the mathematical equation which makes it work, but they don't know why it works. And hence, a large language model essentially is a black box technology, which, yes, has a cutoff date. So it can only answer questions based on what it has been trained on. But it can come up with new innovative ideas that it has never read. That's the reason it can generate images it has never seen, generate sounds that it has never heard. Now, this second half of doing things that you had never seen is the transformer architecture, which as human beings, we understand half, which is the science, and half is art or magic, which the world is still grasping with on a research level.
I am
The,
sorry. I have one more follow-up question. Is do you mean to say that because this is all based on mathematical formulations, do you mean to say the more powerful server farm I have, the more calculations I'll be able to do, and hence more powerful will my model be, and hence I'll be able to predict that average or that learning more. Is that the correct understanding then?
Yes, absolutely. The amount of data and computation power, and we call it flops. Flops are the number of cycles that we run on a model to get to a particular level of loss ratio, which means the loss keeps decreasing. That is the incorrectness of inaptness of the next predicted token. So when you start by saying this cat lives in a model with trained on a weak GPU with only one flop, but a lot of data would give the answer, this cat lives in elephant, which makes no sense. By the time you get to the 10th flop, it would say this cat lives in a system. Sort of makes sense, but still not making real human sense. By the time you get to 100 or 1,000 flops, rotations of training, which is costing electricity on big GPUs, it starts giving you relevant answers like this cat lives in a house or in a box. So yes, you're right about the assumption that the larger the training resource you have, the better the performing model. However, we don't have to worry about this because there are billion-dollar companies doing that for you. This webinar is more about how do we leverage models that are both closed source like OpenAI, and I'll take you through in the next 15, 20 minutes through some open source models, which you can actually download on your computer and say tomorrow a news comes out just for fun and Mr. Trump announces that, hey, nobody will have access to AI anymore. The large language model sitting on my computer with no internet access is still my LLM. It's still my AI. I could continue to use it my entire life. It has no connection to the world. And that is already possible. You have such open source models out there. Very recently, you must have heard of DeepSeek R1, which is again an open source model. You can chat with it online. You could also pull it down on your computer and do things with it. So I'll take more follow-up questions, but just to maintain the timeline, I'm going to run through. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. So continuing to the brilliant question the gentleman asked, we can ground it in reality. This reality can be by taking the large language model and connecting a bridge of internet. Now, when I search what is the great weather today, It goes to the internet, gets a query, just like a human being would on Google, and uses the answer, uses the response in creating the final answer, right? So what is the weather in Paris today is actually a Google query running behind Perplexity. It predicted, it fetched the actual Paris weather from any, say, Apple weather website and just embedded it into the answer. But just like the internet connection, you can also connect it to your enterprise data. You could also connect it to every press release or copy that you have ever written in the past 10 years. And now when you ask it to generate one, you would find it surprisingly following the tone, the articulation that that you have connected it to, while it would not be copying anything, but it would get a great idea of its tonality, semantics, and everything else. Uh, So we are going to learn somewhere in this session as to how to exactly do this and how do we include the relevant knowledge in context of LLM, because I find that everyone's learned to talk to AI, right? We from Yahoo Messenger days, we've all been good at chatting, and we are also used to another sentient being is the word I'll use, because back in the day, the sentient being would be a human, right? I said hi and you would reply hello. Today you type hi to a model and it sort of gives you a sentient response saying hello. But we can achieve this and it's become fairly easier. In fact, all the enterprise grade application, which will be relevant to business processes, on which you can define an AI strategy and ROI, will fall here. Because this part has thousands of tools already in the world that anyone can log into, right? Okay. So what is happening under the hood? Yeah, and I'm sorry for this initial part being slightly scientific, but I can assure you, as we move to the fun stuff, this will help us understand in our minds what's going on. So I gave it a bunch of data, right, on songs, and I trained it on a model, and the simplest way to put it is it generated a graph, and as you can see that reggae songs are all orange and R&B is all blue. Now let's say the new observation, I was to make a point here. If I was to give this trained model a new observation, any guesses if the observation is here, how it would be predicted? Just to make the question easier, let's say the observation is here. What would you classify, or imagine you are the large language model and you just have a new observation. What would you classify this song as? Is it reggae or R&B?
Reggae.
Perfect.
Reggae.
Because it's closer to that cluster of information. How information is clustered is again by converting every word, image, sound into a math sequence called a vector. A vector is nothing but a massive sequence of numbers, is how I would put it simply, and plotting it all together in a vector database, right? So that's the graph you see here. Imagine this to be the large vector database. I give it a new input, it says, hey, it's reggae. I give it a new input, it says, hey, it's R&B. If I give it, for human beings, if I give it right here in the center, if I draw a line like this, but for human beings, it would be hard to say, hey, that's right in the middle of both. What should the correct answer be? But for a computerized system, the traversal of that line has moments where it was close to reggae. It has moments where it was close to R&B, and it's going to accumulate all that and say, look, I spent maximum time near R&B while drawing this line. So I'm just going to predict that the song that you're throwing at me right now is R&B. That's a simple example of essentially how all large language models in the world are working. And in a matter of months and years, as you start using them in your organizations and you search for things, you must understand that it's just referring to an old cluster of information. Whatever you knew you throw at it, it's kind of seeing what are my closest neighbors and what are my closest neighbors telling me. That's what this thing is going to be. This is literally how words are predicted. So observing the pattern is what happens in the training of the model. Finding the closest match is what we call inference. You'll hear this word many times in the world of AI, that a model is running inference. So when you type, give me give me a marketing strategy for brand X. And that few seconds that the spinner rotates, and as the words start coming out, what it did is this. It had no idea about marketing strategy when you type the prompt. It had no idea about the brand. But when you use the word marketing strategy, it went to its massive compressed information of the World Wide Web and said, hey, marketing strategy, these two tokens, marketing and strategy, they belong to these cluster. So I'm going to assume this is what it means. And this word brand could be, say Honda, Hyundai, Ola. Uh, this also belongs to a particular cluster, and it's going to pull all those strings and start predicting the next token. Obviously, happens really fast. That's why we love it, right? So that was sound, right? Now let's make this example a little more human. So what if it was text? The movie was great. I want to classify this statement. Say a bunch of people are writing an email to you, or someone's applying for a job, or you are writing content copy and you want to know if it is positive, negative, good, great, good, bad, ugly, whatever. You could have unlimited classes here. So what the model is going to do is, as you can see, it converted everything into a vector, which is nothing but a bunch of numbers. It ran it through the ML. And this machine learning model was not designed to predict the next word. This model is designed to say, hey, is the statement positive or negative? Now, because every word has a mathematical embedding, the word great and its mathematical embedding, the large language model was not trained to understand that the word great is positive. We go back to the training, right? It was fed enough information to know that some words are positive and some words are negative. It's inferred all that. We don't have to teach it like a child. We just get to throw everything at it, and it predicts the pattern by putting it in a graph like this. So when it sees this word, it runs each of them. It says no, it doesn't fall in positive or negative. Movie, no. Was, no. Great, okay, I can say this is positive. But it also has a negative value. So the model is not 100%. It's like, hey, I'm 98% sure that this is positive, and that's the response token I'm going to give you. This accuracy is what is critical for building real world applications, enterprise grade use cases, right? If you just picked large language model and gave it all your company data without the necessary pre-training, it wouldn't exactly know what your company believes is good, right? So say one client could have a copywriting rule engine saying, when you write for my brand, don't use these 10 words. Another guy could also say, when you write for my brand, I love these 10 words. Now, if you have one AI answering everything, it's going to get that nuance wrong, which human beings can get really right. And that is where the fine tuning or the post training of these models comes into the picture. Any questions so far about how we are just predicting the next? Okay, great. No news is good news is what I'll assume. Same thing, right? So we did sound, we did text. Now, what if I throw it an image? If I throw it an image, what is an image? Image is a bunch of pixels, right? Again, we're not going to jump in the math, but RGB, the primary colors, your screen is full of tiny, tiny pixels, and the computer doesn't understand a cat. All it understands is pixels. If I give it enough images of cats and say, hey, this is a cat, it doesn't really know the being cat as a living thing. It just understands based on adequate pixel pattern that, hey, this thing looks like a cat. So when I give it a cat image, it runs through the ML. As you can again see, it does predict, could be a bird. The LLM for a moment also thinks it's a dog, but thank God for good mathematics, it has the highest probability of being a cat. It isn't sure. Compare that to us as human beings, right? If I showed you a bird, a cat, or a dog, would you have any doubt about what a cat is? You'd be 100%, right? That's our neural network. And what we are dealing with here is a machine neural network. Now, few more slides of this kind, and we'll jump into the tools, I promise. How do you make these models behave better? How do you make them behave for what you want them to do for your personal life? Could be writing emails. For your business, could be writing press releases, advertisements, copies. And as the future unfolds, it could also be to generate video, social media posts, banners, what have you. So one way to make it behave exactly as you want is called zero-shot prompting. And this is relevant to the tools we will see ahead. You'll also understand in the future when you use tools as to which one was zero-shot prompted, which one was given a bit more than zero-shot, and which one was taught how to reason. The latest models can reason, just like you and I can reason. So let's run the example. What's the zero-shot prompt here? Translate from German to English, but use only words that start with an F. And I give it some German, which even I don't understand, to be honest. But as you can see, this one single instruction has made it comply to the rule I set. Now, this instruction, zero shot, could have been anything. It could have been write this in Shakespearean English. Don't write this with XYZ words and use anything else, right? As you wanted. So this one line instruction that you give to a model, and please note, usually zero shot is not something that you give while chatting. It is embedded in something called a system prompt, which both Gemini, OpenAI, they all have this little box called system prompt if you go to play with it. And I'm going to show you how to play with those tools today. So we're going to add a zero shot prompt and just see how we can completely change the behavior. The next method to make it behave is a few shot learning. So here is an example. If I said that, hey, look, standardize different currencies. Euro, I want it like this. Burger, I want it like this. Milkshake, I want it like this. Toppings are like this. Now, a steak. How should this steak be represented? So as you can see, all the currency names were being given here. But in multiple examples, every time we've given it a symbol, I know it may feel like a very nuanced detail, but it makes a big difference when you're trying to get high accuracy results. Because all answers had a symbol, when I gave it a steak 24.99 USD, the LLM responds by just putting a symbol in front of it. This is a few shot examples. So it's not zero shot, which is one. It's a few multiple references for the AI to ground itself. The third option is chain of thought. Who won the World Cup in the year before Lionel Messi was born? Now this is a human question. When was Lionel Messi born? How many years is a World Cup held in? Could I just go Google this? Sure. But imagine from a large language model's point of view that, hey, Lionel Messi was born on this date. The World Cup that took place before his birth was this one. And then the winner was this one. So this is sort of a chain of thought prompting that you've instructed it over here. Any questions so far on zero shot, multiple examples, and chain of thought prompting? Great. So just quickly going back, zero shot was GPT-2, 3.5. 4 got better with few shot learning. The O1 model that you hear about, the R1 model that you hear about is here today. It started reasoning even with abstractions visible in front of it, just like human beings can reason. Right? I'm calling a friend over and what should I cook for him? Does he have an allergy? Or today is Mahashivratri. He loves non-veg, but today he's going to eat veg. We do a lot of thinking, and that's where the models are today. Okay. So that was just a warm up to what we are about to go through, and where we are right now is having completed the intro to large language models. And also, ladies and gentlemen, you should know that the modern word in the core tech industry, for those of us researching, has already gone past LLM. We no longer use this word. We use the word LMM. A large language model could only respond to the question, this cat lives in a, come up with a text. But now models can come up with an image, they can come up with a sound, they can come up with math, they can come up with code. So they are no longer just a language model. It would be incorrect to call it that. What you're dealing today with is large multimodal AI, not large language model AI. And that's a fact. What we're going to now see is a very cool demo of what this transformer magic looks like. Then we're going to move on to actually getting our hands dirty with some tools and seeing how we can create business use cases. Post that, we'll discuss what fine tuning is if you really want to build something enterprise grade. Customer experience is completely changing with voice enabled AI. And I don't mean voice enabled mic where you ask, then it responds. I'm talking human level conversation where you can interrupt it, interrogate it, question it, maybe even scold it. Not that it'll make any difference. Uh, but you can speak to it just like you would with a human being. And we're going to show you a live demo and a bunch of others. So that's the order we're going to follow here on. Any questions so far? All right, great. So let's jump right into this. We've covered this part. Few things I do want to mention, somebody wants to take a note, is there are YouTube channels for multiple YouTube channels on AI, but Andrij Karpathy, one of the co-founders of YouTube, recently launched a video, Understanding Large Language Models. It's 3 hours, 40 minutes, not for the faint-hearted. But even if you break it into episodes of, say, 20 minutes a day, I think it's totally worth a watch over a week or two. So that's a name that you should probably keep track of and note down if this field interests you. You will not find a better explainer for free anywhere else, and I've tried quite a few of them. John McCarthy and Jeffrey Hinton again have written books, and they are the fathers of AI. Jeffrey Hinton is a more prominent name, and McCarthy was a more classical computer scientist. But again, these are two names you may want to read up on. You'll be surprised. The thought emerged from these human beings, and their explanation is far simpler than where we are today. It's totally worth a read. I would also like to quickly cover 4 words. Tokens are nothing but words. So say the word apple, APPLE, could be 1 token, but the word pineapple could be 2 tokens, and I had pineapple could become 7 or 8 tokens. So there is not like a fixed limit that, hey, 5 characters make a token or 7 characters make a token. So that's essentially tokens, breaking down of information alphabets into a mathematical sequence that the model can understand, which we'll see here how it processes that. Context length, you keep getting in the news, right? OpenAI has 128K context length. So 128,000 bits or bytes of context length, which means that's the amount of information you could give it. You could give it, say, a 150-page book. Gemini has a 1 million token context length. It's connected to tokens. That essentially means you could take 500-page books and push it all to Gemini in one go. And the minute you start asking questions, it has those 500 page into 5. So 2,500 pages to refer to. So the amount of background information you can fit is what context length is. There is also a deeper meaning to AI training, but we'll skip that for today because it's not important to us as users. The important thing for us as users is to know what is the trail. Say when you write an email, right? It helps to have a mail trail. Sometimes when you're on the all of us hate long mail trails, but sometimes when you're on the 15th mail, you at times have to scroll up to see, hey, what is the context of this conversation? That is exactly what AI is able to do with context length. If you keep chatting with it for 1 year and it has a 1 million, very soon we are going to be at infinite context length, which means your whole life, all the conversation that you've done with the AI, it is truncating that information and saving it somewhere to enable better responses for you, because it's building your information base. You could even say it's understanding your personality, your taste, your tonality. And how much of it can store is how much more it can behave the way you want it to or like you. That's decided by context length. Parameters are the number you'll often hear OpenAI releases a new model with 1 billion parameters. The 1 billion or 10 billion parameters, this word refers to the number of mathematical nodes, and nodes are the simplest way to look at it is the human neurons. We have about 1 billion neurons in our brain, right? These 1 billion neurons, the human neurons, are the most energy efficient because you can eat one meal and come up with the most fantastic ideas in the next 4 hours. So the total amount of electricity consumed by your brain is actually the amount of calorie that one meal gave you. There is no AI system in the world that is that energy efficient yet. But how they have become surprisingly impressive is by using similar neuron connections between the input word and the output word. It has 1 billion nodes. Each of them has been assigned a number. And as this cat lives in a statement, travels through those 1 billion nodes, it has 1 billion opportunities to calibrate and get to the right answer. So obviously, as I increase the parameters, the accuracy gets better. Prediction, again, is as simple as inference. So the prediction is the outcome that we are all quite used to. Let's run through this cool animation and then we can continue our conversation. So is everyone able to see my screen? Okay. So this essentially is, say, the input token that we are giving into a transformer. We don't have to be overwhelmed by the architecture, but it is realistic. And we'll see what it is able to do. So it kind of takes that word, converts it into a token. Now, based on all the training, the pre-training, post-training, it embeds those tokens into this input embed. From there, it sends it down to the transformer architecture. What you're looking at is actually the transformer architecture visualization. It's math, but someone's done a great job for individuals like us to kind of show us. So this is all just processing the next best prediction. And it eventually comes out as a response. Every time, next time you chat with something, what your input ran through is exactly this process. And obviously what you're seeing here is nano. It'll be a nice understanding. This is the size of a GPT transformer. That's a nano. That's a GPT-2. That's a GPT-3. And you can imagine what 4.0 looks like. So the number of parameters and the entire transformer architecture is only expanding. Again, coming back to the gentleman's question initially, why we need larger machines and more GPU to make better AI is this. Because in a visual level, the whole architecture itself is expanding. All right. Any questions so far? Great. So the next thing that we're going to run through is a part of OpenAI that usually we aren't used to. What we are all used to is the chatting interface, right? Like where you go and where you simply start typing. And that's essentially the chat completion mode. If you want an example of it, I could. So yeah, this is me talking to a base module trained by OpenAI. I have no control over it. I could give it some zero-shot learning here. Be witty with this response. Chicken or egg, which came first? That first line, be witty with this response, was my way of giving it a zero-shot learning. And let's, for fun, read what it says. The classic dilemma. Well, if we are being honest, the egg came first because even dinosaurs laid eggs, and they were cracking the code long before chickens came on the scene. So technically, eggs were already in business before the chicken even had a chance to clock in. That's a witty response, right? Based on that one single product. Going back, there is a part of these tools which most of us are not interacting with, which is the playgrounds like Gemini and OpenAI. They all have playgrounds, and there is a bunch of things you can do here. So say I go to assistant, right? And once I come into the assistant, we're going to create a whole new assistant. We're going to call it the webinar assistant. Help webinar members with information on where to go, when to join, and just for example's sake, etc. Could anyone here tell me what this system instruction equals to in terms of what we have crossed so far? This is a zero-shot example of telling this particular AI that here on, whenever I speak to you, this is the role that you're going to behave in. You could also come here and select a cool model, which is selected. I could take a bunch of PDFs, right? So if I was just to enable this tool, I could upload PDFs from my computer. Say I have a Hyundai media report here, and there you go. That media report is now being converted as we speak into math, into vectors, stored somewhere. I don't have to worry about all that complexity. What we just did is we took the regular chatting AI of OpenAI and made it ours by giving it a system instruction, which could be one line. It could also be a 5,000 word essay. You could really double click into how you want it to behave, what you want it to do, what you don't want it to do. You could even be smart to use AI to write its own system instruction. So something I've done often for other assistants is I go to ChatGPT and I say, hey, look, I want you to behave like this. Write me your own system instruction. It does that. I copy paste it here and it behaves beautifully. We're going to skip code interpreter here, but for you to understand, if you're dealing with Excel sheets, company data, you want to run data science, analytics, anywhere where math is involved, you want to enable this so that your assistant AI, your custom assistant, can run code in the backend and give you very accurate mathematical results. And lastly, function, right? What is the function? So function is a way for developers in your teams, and you have no code tools also that enable you to do this. Function is a way for me to give a superpower to my AI, which, mind you, is not available here, right? You can attach files, sure, but you can't give it a function. This piece of information allows your assistant to interact with your CRM. It could interact with your company's database. Hell, it could even interact with your Gmail, which could be just a function. So now what you're doing is you're giving it an instruction. You're giving it a bunch of old files, which becomes its ground truth. Say someone works in the travel industry and I deal with a destination called Andaman Islands. And I have hotel rates for all the properties there because, well, we run a destination management company for the sake of the example. So I can give all the hotel rate files here. And whenever somebody comes and says, hey, prepare an itinerary for me with exact costs, it's not going to guess. It doesn't even need to go to the internet. It has the files with the hotel rates and it's going to give you a perfect answer. And when say seasons change, new properties come up, I can just come here and remove this file and give it a new updated file which my team has prepared. And the information has become real time like that. But now let's say your travel itinerary question was, I want to travel this year around Holi, but I want to make sure the weather is sunny. Now the file can't help, right? So we need to give it a function which allows this AI to go read the weather. This is the simple example. In the case of CRM, you could say, if I was to give it a function to go read Zoho CRM, I could talk to my AI saying, find the clients who are in the proposal stage of the pipeline, and it would be able to travel to my Zoho CRM, go through all the data, pick up the clients that are in the proposal stage and bring them out. If I give it another function, like the one Ashish was showing us, right? The Gemini example at the beginning of this webinar. I could give it another function saying, you now have the ability to go visit specific websites. So I want you to not just find the clients in the proposal stage. I want you to go visit their websites and get that relevant information. I give it a third function called the competitor analysis. So now it can go to CRM, get the data, do the competitor analysis, be grounded on some files, and then you get your final response. So I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you're sort of able to understand that this chatting versus no coding required, your ability to really bend AI at will to become a copywriter, to become an editor, to become a articulation expert, to become a legal contract analyzer. All of that is within your capability by giving it a solid instruction. It could be a zero-shot instruction, but obviously for more accuracy, you want to give it multiple examples. Ground it in truth by giving it files. You don't need to even explain the file. Just upload it. And giving it functions, which if complex for you, there are always developers like us around to write some custom functions for you. I think this is a great example. The amount of lines you see here, 10 of them, that's one function.
Zora, I think Ashish had a query. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please. Yes, Ashish. Ashish, I can't hear you. Or is it just me?
No, we can't hear Ashish. Ashish, you had a question? Okay.
While he fixes mic, I'll continue. So as you can see, I just generated a function to read a CRM. I could also generate a function to say, search my database for pending proposals, right? And it would kind of do its own magic, and there you go. And I just have to hit the button save. Obviously, making it look a little easier than it is, the functions part. Everything else is fairly simple. You guys are more than capable of, in fact, certainly more articulated than I am in terms of giving it an instruction for what you want it to behave like. The response format, again, controls what you want the format output to be. Obviously, right now we're dealing with a chatty assistant, so the format is limited to text, but you could change it to video, image, XYZ. Anybody here who knows what temperature and top P is? Any guesses?
Temperature, temperature seems to be how creative you can be, if I'm not wrong.
That's correct.
Top P should be, I am not very sure, but it is again how much I can falsify my data, is it?
Or yes, that's
creative.
A perfect way to creativity. For the sake of this discussion, we'll keep it simple. That I could actually control this parameter to say, hey, look, how much outside the scope of the original conversation do I want you to go? So say I start talking to it about Mughal history. Do I want it to go to Star Wars? If yes, that's where you want to be. If I'm talking about Mughal history and you just want to talk about Mughal history and nothing else, I would probably want to be here. And if you want it to be, say, somewhere creative but not scope creeping, you would like to be here. And it's very easy for you to play around with the top P and the temperature and get your results out of that. So is everyone good with everything so far?
What is top P again?
Both are methods for you to control the creativity and the scoping of your AI responses.
So what's the difference between temperature and top P?
To be very precise, temperature would be the amount of scope it goes out towards. So do you want it to stick to the topic or not? And top P would be how wildly creative you want it to be. If you want, I could actually give you a more...
This is good for me if you want to manage the time.
I just have a few more things. Please go for it.
Hi, Zorawar. This is Tanushree Jain here.
Yeah.
I had a question that you mentioned in the function. You can mention that, go scan the competition or go scan and see what are the pending stuff
That's correct.
across various tools. So suppose like as a marketer, you want to, assess the market, you want to see what is the scope of growth in terms of sales, which is available in the next quarter. Uh, but won't the websites and all of the tools be wall guarded? It's going to be what only the available data in the normal zone would be there, like a Google, or it won't have access to all the wall guarded data, right?
Yes, yes, that's correct. But you'll be surprised. The beauty of writing these functions is as simple as old school APIs that have been built. And these old school APIs have been used for the past 20 years in the world of internet. So, so even today, when you go do any research, proprietary research, say for stock exchange or for the price of currency, those websites are actually built by having such functions being called at the back. Because it's impossible for one currency website to know the currency rate of all the countries in the world, right? So it's actually traveling somewhere and getting constantly updated. So even if it is a guarded system you want to build a function towards, you would just need to approach that uh, uh, third party by saying, hey, I want API access. 90% of the times API access is free because everybody wants their tools to be used. 10% of the times it's restricted. So they might say, hey, look, give us a $10 or a $100 deposit, and we'll give you a key. Now, when you generate this function, all you would say is key Wall Street Journal equals XYZ. And then I would say, build me the function to get latest data. Using that key, it would be able to enter that guarded place. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so Rahul, but you know what? This is all very coding language. So I don't know whether I'm asking you the right question or not. Uh, People with probably the technical ability to, get into such depth of asking a question or defining it through codes can probably get into this stuff. But as marketers, where you want to use, your AI and chat GPT for besides content usage, but for real application of prediction in terms of either a strategy or the way to go ahead, what will some lose cases on that? If you could just throw some light on that.
So I know this is the heavier part, but I also wanted to show you guys that how the cool tools of the future, which will enable you to not have to do this, come to life. Uh, so you're very right. You would need a developer like us to really build you really good functions. But there are
Right.
already tools out there that are coming out in the market which do this for you with no code. The reason I'm taking you through this is so that we all have a fundamental understanding of how that tool is achieving
Right. Okay.
your magic result. But you're very right. For this piece, yes, you would need some amount of technical information just for the function part. Uploading files, I think
Yeah.
that's fairly easy, right?
Zora, I think Shweta also has a question. Shweta, you want to go?
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you. Hi, this is Shweta. I have actually a follow up question. What Tanushri asked, right? Exactly on website and the data and the guarded, platforms we have. Something like HubSpot, which is already, if that's an automation system, marketing system we are using, right? They itself are offering all of this AI enabled chatbots and, looking at the data inside your platform. Isn't that the same atmosphere that the tools which you are using are offering you anyways?
Precisely, that is being built like this. However, as with any information technology goes, the more layers of abstraction you have, the higher the premium you will pay. So yes, those tools will enable you and they will charge you a subscription for it, versus a playground like this, which is ground zero. So so over here we would not have any layer of abstraction, which is why the whole interface looks complex and we have to do a bunch of things. Uh, but then my price per response, or say my price to intelligence ratio, is within my control. I could always expand the intelligence and the price consumption. I could decrease the price consumption and still retain intelligence, or vice versa. Whereas the modern tools that will continue to come out for the next 10 decades will be built on systems like this. But you, as an average consumer, may prefer to pay that $20 and just consume what you need. So yeah, you're very right. They are all offering similar tools. My idea of taking you guys through this, again, I don't mean to overreach, but it's a first of the webinar like this. And I thought that the underlying architecture would give us a knowledge base that is valid for next 10 years. Because if you ever find a tool that is capable of going and doing some magic somewhere and getting some information that your regular GPT could not, you know what it's doing. It's doing a function call. The next time you
Zorawar,
upload,
it's sorry, I'm speaking without raising hand, but it's very helpful because what will happen, and that is what has guys happened with me as a MarTech person. I had to migrate from one platform to another. I had that intelligence services embedded with one platform. When I did, I could not migrate my AI thing. So my model needs to be trained again. If that is the case with you, today you are using HubSpot. Tomorrow, if you don't use your AI, you will get into the same soup as I went. You will not be able to use an AI service which is completely decoupled from this. In my view, and this could be only my view, the AI service has to be decoupled from the other sources of truth, as I call them, and hence it needs an underlying layer, not an accomplishment or a complement layer to
precisely,
your MarTech tools.
precisely.
I think Ashish had a question.
Interesting.
Yes,
Thank
Ashish.
you so much.
Okay, I
Ashish,
think somebody was asking something
I
before
think it was
me. I
Summer,
Shweta.
think
Summer,
yes.
Summer,
Yeah.
Summer, you
Finally, my
wanted
voice is back.
Ashish, you can
Yes.
complete. Ashish, you can complete. I'll ask follow-up.
So I think there were two things. One was a point, and I think Antriksh raised a very valid point. I think, guys, we need to understand that we need to decouple the business intelligence from business data. Whatever is the data, you can keep it anywhere. The intelligence need to remain in the company, and I think that's what Zorawar is trying to say and coming up with. And Zorawar, just coming back, the demo which you are doing right now, to best of my understanding, it is the walled garden demo. So basically, it's not that I am building
Ashish, your frame,
the intelligence which I generate.
sorry, I
Sorry.
don't know if it's my network or is everyone facing the same. Ashish's frames were hanging.
No,
I
I think
couldn't get the
Ashish's
question.
frame were
Yeah.
weak. Yeah.
No, we
Okay.
can't hear Ashish. I think Summer, you had a
Okay,
question.
forget. I think Samar, you go ahead. I think I will connect with Zorawar later.
Okay.
Some issue in my system.
Zorawar, firstly, thank you. This is a brilliant initiative that you started off with. The presentation was really helpful. Small things. Typically what we today spoke was all around structured data, correct? Broadly, the use cases, machine learning examples, LLM, everything we've spoken is about a structured data that will perform and predict and give you the thing, correct? But the real challenge
Absolutely.
is how the deep tech is going to evolve, correct? Because how the feel is going to come is where the majority of the use cases are either succeeding or failing. Correct. I just put a LinkedIn post today that, speaking to few very senior leaders in the industry, and they were only concerned about that how my response in the experience world to the customer will behave using AI, correct? Not the factuality of it, but the feel of that response, correct? Which primarily is use cases around deep tech. So how are you seeing that from the world that you are working, and how do you think it will evolve, correct? Is there anything that is happening which can be useful for us?
The models are going to get so powerful that just like they have learned to recognize pattern in the World Wide Web, which is unstructured to begin with. Although there is a lot of structure to website pages, right? Because they all have a domain, they all have a title, XYZ.
Correct.
But long story short, it will not necessarily be more compute, but it will be the more efficient algorithms which will be able to create, not create is the wrong word, detect structure in unstructured data and still be able to create those embedding graphs. You won't necessarily need we already have built systems where you can just throw randomness at it, and it would take, say, a bunch of data scientists 30 days to find the needle in the haystack, but the AI can do it in the first minute. Say taking your company's past 10 years of financial reports, all vendor bills, all expenses, and throwing it at it and giving it one line like, find me an insight that has not been discovered yet, and going and getting a coffee. And when you come back, you have a piece of insight that your data teams, your accountants, and the C-suite has missed, which could or could not be really valid to business growth. Just one example. Okay, so this was all the boring stuff. Shall we move to the more interesting, fun stuff? By the way, not for the sake of promotion, but Pai and I are co-founders. You are most welcome to get in touch with us, even post this. We do this for a living, bread and butter, and we do obviously heavier engineering, but we are always happy to enable information and throw light. Should any of you have an interest in this field, I'd love to be. Uh,
Yeah.
I can't be much, but I can be a lighthouse and at least point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Zora, I think we just have to ask Ashish, like we've crossed our time. It is 7:40. Do you all have time to see a few demos, or do you want to?
5 minutes?
I think let's spend 5 odd minutes. What do you say? Yep. I think let's spend 5 to 7 odd minutes to have a quick some demos if required. I mean, we can schedule the another one because of people might have their own calendar fixed, and
No,
so do you.
I promise in the next 5 we'll see the climax of this webinar. Sorry, I am in love with the subject and I tend to get carried away. And they were great questions being asked. So, okay, without any further ado, please let me know once my screen is visible. So this is the e-commerce problem. We're going to use AI. This is not running on OpenAI. This is not running on anything. It's a custom neural network that we have built, Prashant and I at M37 Labs. And what it does is it helps you generate data. So I'm going to give it an object of a ring. And I'm just going to say get prediction, right? So what it's going to do is it takes that ring, I'll zoom this in, and it gives me a prediction based on just that image that, hey, this is gold, this is for ladies, it can go to lifestyle, it can be 18 karat, rose gold, da da da. And all of you are marketeers here, so you all can infer that I'm generating one word about a product, having given it nothing, not even a chat input, right? This part could be customized for whatever it is that you want it to do. Where I have used Foro after using our internal AI is to say, hey, why don't you go out to the internet and also find out what the competitors in the jewelry industry are labeling this as? So it comes back and says that, hey, look, you want to put it in a master collection called rose gold, but I can sense outside that competitors have also put it in the collection Italian diamond XYZ, right? So this is one quick use case of AI. Another use case of AI could be running state-of-the-art presentations in today's world, right? So we did this for ourselves. We wanted to calculate engineering expense. If I hire 2 engineers, a junior, 2 mid-level, and 1 senior engineer, my budgeting is done. I have year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 total. I can in fact switch off the salary, legal, and accounting, and I'll zoom this in for you. And now only thing I'm looking at is the office cost. I could switch that off and just judge the legal cost. And I could just judge accounting and I can switch everything back on. So you can see all of this is happening in real time. Another interesting example that we can give you is interviews, right? So let's say I was to give it a CV. Unfortunately, I may not have any other CV except mine. So I've given it a CV. Again, there is no instruction. I'm showing you purpose-built AI applications, which are using the same technology behind. So it does not know my name. If anyone wants to test, you can throw me a CV. So it read my name. It knows my full stack developer role when I graduated, my key skills, my experience, my technology. It even says just a moment. It even says I should be interviewed for a full stack role. Now, guess what happens? If I say no, I'm strong-headed. I want to be a mobile developer. The AI actually tells me, which could be an HR team in your front, that no, this candidate should not be interviewed for XYZ. It doesn't end there. It also selects the tools. I know it looks programming, but if you give it an MBA CV, the tools here would not be programming languages, but be business administration relevant. If you give it an accountant CV, the tools here would be Tally and Zoho Books. If you give it a copywriter's CV, the tools here that it would be tested on would be relevant to them. And if I was to hit the button begin interview, I'll just show you what quickly happens. It's going to generate. So I've built this app and even I can't predict the questions that are going to come. So there's no cheating. Now, questions look technical. My apologies for that. And to not embarrass myself, I'll just hit next. The minute I finish, I get a complete analysis of this candidate, the time spent per question, what was right, what was wrong. Oops, I got the color wrong here. So yeah, correct should be green, incorrect is red, but that's human error. And what could show up in your email next day could be something as simple as this report. That, hey, you were sleeping, 1,000 candidates were interviewed. This is their CV. As per the algorithm, they are 85% match, but they scored horribly. So this could be rejected. And we could set a simple filter saying, hey, in your inbox, only those reports should show up who are above 90% match and who scored above 90%. So imagine the time saved for a team that has to do 1,000 or 10,000 interviews. You could do them in one night. Okay. And just to run through this, I'm going to switch off. I want to show you the next generation of customer experience. So you'll have to hear.
Hi. Hello. How can I assist you today? Would you like to browse products, check your cart, or get recommendations?
I would like to browse products.
So you said I want to Would you like to browse categories or search for a specific product?
Categories.
Here are some popular categories. 1. Fob, electronic.
Electronics.
In electronics, we have the following categories.
Show me smartphones.
Here are some smartphones you can choose from. 1. iPhone 15 Pro Max.
Select Samsung Galaxy S21.
The Samsung Galaxy S21 is available for $59,999. Would you like to add this to your cart?
Yes, please.
So just for paucity of time, Galaxy. I hope you were all able to hear that. So that's no hands, no typing. The system is doing all the function calling. Imagine Amazon has a database and the AI is calling the products just like you have to go search. The AI is doing that. And this is the new age of customer experience. Shall we show them the brand monitor, Prashant?
Yeah.
So this will be the last demo, guys, for you. So anybody here, can you throw a brand at me? An Indian brand prominent?
Let's pick up Home Credit.
Which one, sorry?
Home Credit.
Home Credit. Home Credit.
Do you, for the sake of the example, do you want to go with something broader? We'll add this also. 2 words?
Yeah. 2 words.
Can I also add, say, Ola? Just.
Attenberg.
Sorry?
Attenberg.
Spell that, please.
ATO.
ATOMBERG. Attenberg.
ATOND.
ERG. Attenberg fans.
It's ATOND for Delta or B for Bravo?
B for Bombay.
Attenberg, Zora.
So, sorry guys, I'm a developer. I'm really bad with brands. So my bad. So I'm going to add it here. Okay, great. So what it did right now, as you can see, we added home credit here. Okay. We'll just go to home credit. So it was able to immediately go read all the news out there on home credit. it has summarized that analysis. That media report is ready to download in this system right now. Just give me a second. It seems the application is too heavy for. Well, the demo gods were with me so far, so. Guys, if you don't mind, can I just restart this once, please?
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I think.
Because I think this will be the most interesting one. Oh yeah, so thank God we didn't lose the previous data. So let's go back to home credit. So essentially what this application is doing is that you have the media report, which would otherwise take a long time for people to generate already here. So that's the sentiment score for home credit, the number of mentions, the summary of all the news out there and the sources from where that summary was. Now I could go one level further here and even talk to this copilot, which knows if here I was to say generate a PR strategy for the next quarter, it knows that I'm looking at home credit in that long list of brands. So if you notice, I've not said generate PR strategy for X. It just knows where I am in the system and it's contextually aware enough to kind of make that strategy for me. We'll just quickly let the result.
Samar had a question. Samar, go.
Yeah, just give me one moment, Samar. I'd like to finish this and then if you're okay, can we go to the question?
Sure.
Just a moment. So that's one way to go about this system. The second is you can generate advisory. So say I go to Ola, right? And Ola, it seems as a PR crisis today should focus on financial transparency based on sources. I do like the brand. They're doing great things, but just say I wanted a media response. I make it cautious, high, and I say factory fire. Actually, fire is too dark. Factory strike, right? Now, this little piece you see has been fine-tuned basis what we discussed earlier to generate politically correct media responses, and it could follow a brand's very specific guidelines. So that's the response that's kind of come in front of us. We acknowledge the concern raised by our employees and are committed to resolving the blah, 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 blah. So it kind of gets it right. You could also send reports directly from here to different stakeholders. I could also use the same system to write a 1,000-word press release. Like I've given it the command. I have not even said what to write the press release on, but because it's aware of the PR crisis, because it has read all the news in real time, by the time I go get my coffee, the system will take a call on what this press release should be. So it's picked a title, say Ola driving forward with confidence, stock market success, strategic leadership, and all of that, right? Atomberg, yeah. So we can come back to Atomberg. So Atomberg, again, we have some news, very limited. And it's been able to summarize that. And if you wanted a global search, right, you wanted to go beyond the system and you wanted access to everything about a brand on the internet. So if I was to type here, say, Honda, then what you have here is everything Honda across the world, right? Now this is not geography limited. So it would just, you could keep scrolling and you could click any one of these links and actually arrive at that particular place. So that's a broader tool which is using a lot of different AI. So we are using OpenAI, Anthropic. You have a co-pilot to talk about brands, brainstorm with. You have an AI workspace to generate things. Yeah, so I'll stop there due to paucity of time. I hope this has helped and please, happy to take any questions.
Zorawar, in the last bit that you showed, it was interesting. In fact, the brand that Ashish mentioned, Home Credit, where he is there. These are made up of very common terms, home credit, correct, usually together. We have faced that, one of our competitor also has a very common name. And whenever we are doing a competition mapping, it's very difficult for us to figure out, okay, whether, because it's a name of a fruit, it's a name of the company, it's a name of a beauty brand. Correct. So how does AI pick up that home credit here is the brand home credit and not a statement? Because I think in one of the key insights, I saw that home credit and automobile industry comparison was happening. I'm sure that's not the home credit that, Ashish was referring. So how does that get, or there will be some discrepancy? How does it work? I mean, what's the accuracy level then?
That's a fantastic question. So that is where I'll go back to the beginning of this webinar, that right now the system you saw is a prototype on one-shot learning. If I gave it 4 examples of brands, which are names of a fruit, but actually a brand, and I said, hey, look, the next time you come across any word, I need you to go out there in the internet and not look for XYZ results, but look for a brand that relates to this word. You could even train it to say, look for a brand in this geography and pick up news from these 100 primary sources. So now it's all about the fine tuning of that large model that we all keep chatting with, right? Which is trained on the brilliant, trained by brilliant minds on parameters that OpenAI decided. But individuals like you and I need to take an interest and help percolate this technology down to the masses for, let's start with social cause, for good things, and for professional causes, for enterprise causes, and for personal things. So to answer your question, it's very easily doable by adding 4 lines of exactly Samar what you told me into the system prompt. That, hey, sometimes you're going to come across a word that is not appearing to be a brand, but I want you to go out there and find a brand with that word. Don't get confused with other results. That's it. It's fixed. If it doesn't fix it, then you can come to somebody like us at M37 Labs and we can do the deeper wiring for you. But yeah, I'm being honest. Whatever we do today will be a zero code tool in 100 days. So hence we have the word laboratory, because we are constantly pushing ourselves to be at the cutting edge. But what I've shown you today will easily be within all your grasp, all of you here in less than 100 days.
Fair. Thanks,
Yes,
Zorawar.
do we still have some questions? I think Tanushree has a question, and we'll
Yeah,
probably pick up a
I'll
couple
make
of
it
last
very,
questions. Yeah, we'll
I'll make it
probably pick up. Go
I'll
ahead,
make it
Tanushree.
very short. So, Ravar, what I've understood, like while we've been trying Chat GPT and AI and all of that, as marketers to try and create content and try and use it for whatever purpose that we want to achieve in faster. From the session today, the takeaway that I have, which is immediate, is that one needs to get into developing the extensive machine learning for your particular category and your brand with specific developers of AI, and then start developing the intelligence so that they can read through multiple data and prompts and then do predictive analysis and all of it. So it is not something that a tool is available in the market and you can just go out and start using it. You will
So
have to create it for your category.
no, Tanushree, you're part right. If it is a massive demand, say petabytes of enterprise data or terabytes of information or very complex rule engines, which you don't want to keep typing to your chat GPT saying, hey, look, here is a 1 million word instruction. So what will happen is you'll have to paste the 1 million words before, then type your prompt, right? Now you can even do this once or twice, but it's painstaking. In that scenario where the demand is very high accuracy and enterprise grade, you would need developers. But if you just go to Chat GPT today and look in settings, there is a function called memory.
Right.
If you switch on that memory function, and it also says system prompt, you can tell your Chat GPT to write in British English. So it doesn't get the Z's, but it gets the S's. I have that problem often, and I hate hyphens. So I've told my chat GPT without any coding that, hey, I need you to always write in British English. I love bullets and formatting. And my memory feature is on. So now in the past 4 years, the amount I've spoken to it, it started kind of giving me back responses in my language. And it's very beautiful to me, scary to some, that it also takes into account my other searches, which have nothing to do with writing an ad. But the fact that I was researching BMW and motorcycles, it has an idea that, okay, this guy likes BMWs. So I talk about it to cars, or I talk about it with fruits. Somewhere in that mathematical neural network, it knows I like BMW, and it infers that if I'm talking about fruits, this is his taste. And it's hard for me as a human being to explain that connection to you, but those connections are already being built as you chat with systems. They are learning you as you are learning them, if you use the memory feature. Yeah.
Okay.
So Tanushree, takeaway, sorry, to sum that up, no, you can do quite a bit of this on your own. It's just about getting your hands dirty with OpenAI and Gemini Playground. Easy to find, just Google it. Point two, you can start fine tuning by uploading files and stuff. Point three, high scale accuracy, massive scale of data. Yes, you will need engineering teams to do the do the groundwork and the cable laying.
Just one question, last question I have is, see, as digital marketings, no, we've been running a huge amount of search ad network and search volumes and driving business. Now with chat GPT coming in, all your traffic kind of moves there, right, over a period of time. So what's going to happen with Google search? Because then how are we going to generate our ads and
Beautiful
sales
question.
and volumes and conversions and all of it? So there's any plan on that front, or?
I'll let
I
Ashish.
think, Pangshri, we will need to put a complete session around it, because if it's not only the top of the box funnel, it's top, middle, bottom, all three places.
Bottom,
Google is
yes.
getting, yeah, Google is getting hammered. So it's a very good question,
It's a
and
great
I would
question.
wish you put it on the group. Let's chat up around it, and we should plan a session around it, because it will require a lot more discussion than just probably one line answer. Sorry, Zorawar,
Sure,
I'm bailing you out on this one.
sure.
Yeah,
No
I think
problem.
Sapna had a question. That's the last one we will take, and then we will wrap it up. Sorry for being the bad guy as always.
No,
Just
no,
for the
Ashish.
sake of keeping everybody on time.
Sure. So quickly, Zorawar, thank you for explaining everything patiently. What
My
is the
pleasure.
kind of reliability that you found with generative AI where it's being used for interfacing with customers? So, or even employees internally. So, for example, the factory strike letter that was generated, how much of a human oversight is required with the clients that you tailor it for?
Everything requires human insight in 2025, where we are. The early mover advantage is not about plugging AI, but it's actually about RL, reinforcement learning. So the sooner you start using a system, you see when you write in Chat GPT, it gets an answer. You have this thumbs up, thumbs down, and
Mhm.
and what OpenAI does every time you give it a thumbs up is it gives a cookie to its AI and says, hey, good job. Keep going in this direction. Every time you give it a thumbs down, it goes into a reinforcement learning loop and says, avoid this kind of answer. I'm oversimplifying. So answer to your question is, the sooner individuals or enterprises start using this system, initially human will be in the loop, where the first 100 press releases or media responses will have a thumbs up, thumbs down for you. And as you give it thumbs up and thumbs down, we will set up a CI/CD pipeline. Sorry for heavy words. It's called continuous integration, continuous delivery. And in 6 months, you can kind of step away, and the system is great. Yes, something will happen a year later in the entire industry, which will require
And
refine tuning that model. Again, human comes
yeah,
in the loop
the
for
blunders like the Air Canada one, which had happened where it was interfacing with the customers. I mean, those are, I guess, setbacks for the industry. Those are the kind of ones that I was referring to.
Yeah, so next 1,000 days for adoption require human in the loop, and we build. I personally believe we must keep ourselves there. Otherwise, we will lose our human precision, and we will not be able to teach these models the emotional quotient and the intelligence quotient with which we perceive the world. So by giving that thumbs up, thumbs down, we are not exactly teaching it how we think, but we can at least tell it how not to think and which is a direction to further expand in. Say AI systems started generating suicide notes, or it started generating chemical weapons. Without that thumbs down, we are not building the guardrail to say don't go here. But hey, copywriting, coming up with new proteins for cancer cure, thumbs up. I want to grow. So yeah, I hope I have
Thank you.
answered.
Okay.
Yes.
I think on that note, I mean, from this side of the community, thanks a bunch, Zorawar and Prashant, for pulling this around and putting it together. I think it was pretty much fun. And I'm
Thanks,
sure
Ashish.
rest of us would kind of resonate with that. And as I said, we will continue these sessions. And I would encourage all of you to possibly, I mean, please come up. If any one of you have any use cases, any one of you have done any experimentations, I think all of us are learning and kind of tiptoeing into these waters. So all good, bad, ugly stories are welcomed, and we shall continue doing that. And we shall come back very soon with the next one. Yeah. Thanks, Prashant and Zorawar.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank you so
Ashish,
much,
for
Ashish,
getting this
and
organized.
everyone for the
Thank
opportunity.
you. Very informative. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Very, very
Oh,
informative.
wow.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Satinder.
Hi.
Hi, long time. I mean,
Yeah,
I see, I,
this was
I see
this
so
was
many, yeah, I see so many friends out here suddenly. Samar, Satyendra, or Prasad. I see Prasad. I don't know if he's still there.
all right. I'll log off. Carry on, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, I will also.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
very
Bye.
much. Take care.
Bye. Thanks, Ashish. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Samar. Bye. Let's pick this up, यार. Samar, 2-3 अच्छे लोग दो.